What an amateur. I can't even find the right one. And there we are.
How long have you been doing this?
So smooth. We were talking, weren't we, about Elgato getting involved in this game. Anyway, my name is Aaron Patrick, and this is Ask the Accountant, episode number 58 with the date of, it says 20th of November, but it's not. It's 27th of November. It's all going wrong on our end. My name is Aaron Patrick, and with me today is Johann Gory. Johann, how has your weekend been as I try and figure out getting us all set up correctly? Go.
Yeah, while you just learn what we should have learned 58 episodes ago, you carry on. Yeah, I had a good weekend. I basically spent the weekend in recovery after a very busy week in London with yourself. So plenty of R&R, cooking for my mother-in-law. So she was round for dinner both nights, which I'm loving because it means I get to do a bit. I put more effort into cooking than I perhaps might if it was just me and the wife. And then sat and watched the final race of the season for the F1. 91 days until testing starts. 97 days until the next race. Not that I'm counting. But yeah, it's been a chilled weekend. How about yourself?
Yeah, weekend-wise, chilled. We'll talk about it more later, but yeah, it was a busy week, wasn't it? Busy week. So, and I even had to stay an extra day to do a bit of filming for QuickBooks. So no, I was, it wasn't that chill weekend because we went off to Birmingham to go see the Masters. So that wasn't fun. We got to see a good band though, so we got to see Scan for Girls. But yeah, it was
nice.
Yeah, I've never known so many people packed into a single place with the Christmas market in Birmingham. It was so bad they had to implement a one-way system to get us around. So
yeah, Edinburgh's been pretty mental in the city centre for the last week because it's the Christmas market at the moment. So
have they brought in the German stands and everything, or how they gone for it?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare, isn't it? Well, today we have a lot to go through, so let's see.
But first of all, let's go through the comments.
Obviously, yeah.
They're piling in.
They are piling in, but we do have a lot to go through. So obviously, we're going to keep to our strict "let's talk about something and move on" policy, and not go through the whole let's just have one topic for the first half an hour and struggle through the rest. So we've got a lot to go through, but you're right, let's make sure that everyone comes through. So we've got Cheryl there. Hello Cheryl, how are you doing? Cheryl's joining us live like you can do at 8:30 a.m. every single Monday morning. So's Louise. Good morning, Louise. Good morning, Paul. Miss Finance is here as well. Notice she's done a little vlog on our little trip around the world of QuickBooks as well, so well worth a watch. Paul Keaton's there. Natasha's there, looking again with we'll have to mention this again, with a new little avatar, promoting a new book, so looking good. Kirsty St. John's here as well. Hi, Oz. Sorry to miss it again. I'm just on my way back from Cape Town with Lara Manton, should I say. We'll catch up. That does sound like a great trip. I've seen a few pictures of theirs. It looks absolutely brilliant. League Saint says, good morning. Did anyone attend the accounting virtual session last week? Quite impressed with a free agent and QuickBooks session on AI. Oh, yeah, we'll have a little bit of a talk about that one, especially with the free agent updates coming through. But unfortunately, it clashed with the business show, which is where we were at. So, it was struggling to do both of them at the same time. Sue Green is there. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Miss Finance asks if we're both okay today. We are both looking forward to coming through from there. League Saint also says, any thoughts on the recently announced price increase by QuickBooks? Quite surprised that they put the cost of advance up so much, because then they don't appear to be a large number of users. We will be talking about the price rises at QuickBooks Labs, which we're doing a Monday this time around. So yeah, change it for everyone, but we're live from HQ, so we can't talk too much about the price rises without getting ourselves shot. But I would just say that the price of Advance is still far lower than it is in America. So I imagine that just expect that to come up at some point.
I think the other price rises were absolutely fair, and in line with what we've seen from Zero, Sage, and everyone else announce in the last few months. So
exactly. I think the only thing we've all got to learn is how to manage the price rises in terms of making it easy from an admin point of view, from our point of view. So, yeah, tips and tricks coming your way. So keep an eye on the channel. Jada Lee says, hello, good morning. Good morning to you too. And Ashley says, good morning, gents. You're throwing me off because you're sat in different seats. Well, pro tip there. The seat that we have is who's actually hosting the show. So keep that on mind. And Joe Wood says, good morning. Good morning, Joe. Thank you for joining us on today. Right. So let's start off with some very positive news with one of our friends in the industry. Cresco raises £12 million in Series A funding.
Ooh, fact check. $12 million.
Oh, sorry, Dog. Yeah. They
Oh,
probably
God, it's
love
already
£12
started.
million. I know, right? What's this? The legal team's already phoning me? Oh no. 6 minutes in. No, great news though, isn't it? I mean, it came completely out of nowhere. Obviously, they were fully aware of it, but we had no even inkling they were trying to raise for this one. But great news, and they've had a couple of new features lately. They've had that integration with Zero.
I think that integration with Zero kind of gave them. I don't want to say gave them credibility because they already had credibility in the space, but I think the fact that Zero was so happy to do such a deep integration and power the pay now button with them gave them a lot of proof of concept. And gave them a huge amount of evidence to go into that Series A funding and to be able to confidently raise the money they wanted to raise for the next steps of development.
Because they've almost, from a Zero point, they've almost completely got rid of Wise, right? That's like a
it's formally ditched. It's no longer an official integration.
Yeah, they didn't officially say they've officially ditched them, but yeah, it has gone, hasn't it? It's it's interesting space for them, and at least from Cresco's point of view, it gives them that bit that they really wanted to push into, right? Which payments is what they wanted to get. They've said a long time, haven't they? They have a really competitive a way of getting money in, but actually their business model is on the payment side of things, isn't it? So
definitely. I think their partnership with Zero is great news for them. I think the fact that they've been able to go out and raise funds has been great because they're in a space where it's becoming more and more competitive. There's more and more people trying to dip their toe into it. And if they hadn't kind of, like you and I discussed a few months ago, like they seem to have gone quiet. There doesn't seem to be much going on. But now we can see why. They've been busy behind the scenes. So great news for Cresco.
Yeah, fantastic news for them. And hopefully this means that they can start completing some of their projects that are outstanding at the moment. Hint, Cresco, if you're listening. So there was a few payroll integrations or payroll uploads and stuff that we're still waiting on, aren't we? That we're hoping to see come through. So yeah, fingers crossed. This is positive news in terms of them being able to push it forward. I've yet to play around with the Zero integration, but everyone who's told me about it says it's works an absolute charm, which you can kind of expect really with them. So good news all around. And also with the Cresco news as well, does that mean, do you think that there's going to be, because we were talking about there's other players in the market now, so we know that in the US QuickBooks have their own pay option and everything else, which we assume will come to UK one day. Who knows? But do you think that this means that they maybe not need for that in the UK now, or do you reckon they'll still go ahead with plans? Do you think this will change anyone else's approach to it?
I think when you're a software provider, you've got two choices in life when you come to any features. One is you own the journey and you build it all out yourself and you can control every aspect of it so that if your clients get stuck on anything, so your users get stuck on anything, you can fix it. If there's a bug, you can fix it. Or you can go through a route where you partner with a third party to power it, but you lose some control of the customer journey and you lose some control of the support element. And there can be a bit of a he said, she said blame game going on so if you look at an FMS system and the VAT MTD bit, how many times do you call the FMS system and go, this isn't working? They go, oh, it's a HMRC's problem. You call HMRC, they say no, it's the FMS. Like you don't. That's not a good experience for anyone. So yeah, you get two choices in life in the software world. You either take longer and build it all out yourself, and perhaps it's not in your wheelhouse and it's not your expertise, or you accept certain restrictions by having an integration to a third party, but you lose your control of the journey. Your support might not be as high level as you'd like it to be, or good quality as you'd like it to be. So, Xero's obviously gone, no, we're happy to power this using third parties, and they feel they can have a strong enough relationship with those third parties. QuickBooks seems to be going down more the route of build it ourselves and control everything route. Which one's the better route? They've both got their pros and cons. The only factor I would consider at the moment, though, is in the future, AI, security, integrations, and how much visibility will AI have of what? So if Intuit's built Intuit Assist for QuickBooks, anything that Intuit own, they can quite happily put in and ring fence and data protect that data appropriately for their AI to be able to take in what it needs to take in to do the job. If you've got one core area, but you're powering everything else by third parties, the AI tool you've built isn't going to have the same accessibility and visibility. So in turn, it's not going to be as powerful. So yeah, like Xero seem to be going down this route of third parties and stuff, and they don't ever seem to talk about AI. No. Whereas QuickBooks, Sage, Bright, they all want the data to be their own and to control that journey. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see major AI news from all of those kind of businesses in the near future.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's interesting with the way that, like you said there, with owning the journey though, because if you take away the employees side of things, so obviously very sensitive in terms of making sure your employees get paid, but realistically, when it comes to making a payment to a supplier, it's less sensitive than having money coming in, right? That's your golden goose. You've got to make sure that money coming in is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, but if you're trying to, in the future, if you're trying to write a cash flow, or you're going to use AI to write a cash flow, is there more power for the AI to be able to pull out, right, you normally pay these guys a few days early or a few days late, I'm going to make that adjustment. Would it have that visibility if you're using a third party?
That is true. Yeah. I suppose that's where, like you said, the AI rules and the AI side of things becomes really important, doesn't it? So yeah. I suppose the only thing we've got to always be wary of is, is there going to be anything that's going to stop it ever coming to market like we had with previous features, where you're trying to own your own solution, you're trying to build it from the scratch, right? You got to go through regulation, you got to go through everything else. So that's the danger, isn't it? That you get so far and never comes to market because there's some element that's out of your control that means you can't, fulfill that solution. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Well, look, I think some of that comes you're kind of referring to like QuickBooks Bank. In 2020, we got told QuickBooks Bank was coming. It was announced at QuickBooks Connect Virtual. And it never arrived because a USA-led team of developers and built idea people hadn't considered the minor little inconvenience of the FCA in the UK and all the banking regulations that we have in the UK, they don't have in the US. So yeah, when you're thinking these things through, you do need to have someone with local knowledge, shall we say?
Yeah. Exactly right. Okay, so that was Cresco. We're really happy for them, and hopefully we can. They're a cool friend, and they were actually at the business show as well, weren't they?
They were. We caught up with Max, didn't we?
Yeah, good to see. But there was another update while we were at the business show. The Chancellor decided to give his update and talk about it. If we're completely honest, I think everyone was half expecting some more news to come out. I think this was a bit of a yes, there was updates. Yeah, there are updates that are going to affect us, but I think there was a bit of a murmuring that we were expecting more changes or more impact, should we say, to come through. There wasn't. If anything, if you take the national insurance update out of it, that was the only real update really. So we won't go through it in much detail, but basically there's been a cut to national insurance. National minimum wage has increased yet again, which we can talk about till the cows come home of how detrimental that is for small business, but that's the world we live in, right? There's nothing that's out of our control. They try and blame it on inflation. They try and push it through from there, but that's all really we have to go by. And there were a few minor tax updates that don't really affect us small businesses, like full expensing sounds great as a concept, but realistic for our businesses, and the fact it's permanent in terms of capital. Yeah, right. Whatever. It's just not really going to affect us, is it, or our business that we go through? So, yeah, I think the only thing for us though is some of the dates sound about weird. The update to the national insurance was just right bang in the middle of a January. That's going to cause a headache for certain.
Well, yeah, what is it?
Isn't
Takes
it?
effect from the 7th of January, doesn't it? Which,
Yeah.
well, the reason they've gone for is it 7th or 6th? 6th
It's
of
one
January.
of the. It might probably
6th.
it's probably
because it's that's the last 3 months of the tax year, so it can.
Yeah, but that's painful for software providers, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, especially when we know some of them are still building like their first iteration of it, and it's complication flows straight in. So yeah.
So, like and this is where certain softwares have got an advantage, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, the government said from the 6th of January, because that's 3 months of pay periods before the 5th of April's tax deadline, year end, sorry.
Yeah.
So that's great. And Employment Hero, they can just roll this out.
Yeah.
QuickBooks Payroll can just roll this out. Zero Payroll can just roll this out. Moneysoft and BrightPay, the desktop versions, they're going to have to go out, update their softwares, send all that software out to all of the new users as an update, and hope they update and implement it and they don't miss an email. Like, I know which one I've got more confidence in happening automatically. So yeah, it's interesting because by this point you don't really expect to have to update your desktop softwares.
No, not until tax year, right? In mid-tax year.
That's it. You update it once a year. That's it. Unless there's a new feature or something and it's worthwhile it. Whereas now you're going to have to do it to make sure your pay slips are accurate.
And certain payroll out there, they charge you for updates as well. Not naming any names, but I remember back in the day, and I think it's because it wasn't a bureau solution, but there was a small little cost to upgrade each individual client, let alone. So you had to keep doing each individual one. It was only a small amount, but you had to actually physically pay for each update for each one. It was like, okay, that's madness. I can't imagine they'll charge you for an update like this, but still, if you've not got a bureau solution, you've got to update every single client. That's gonna be a painful January as well, isn't it? In the middle of January, just when you need it. That's exactly when you need some extra work.
That's exactly when I've got plenty of spare time to focus on things like software updates.
We were all sat there thinking what we're going to do in January this year. Thankfully, we've now got this update to do. So,
this kind of update would never have happened pre-COVID. I honestly think that the government's realised what tech is out there and how adaptable, and actually they can just say, right, from this point onwards, you're doing this, and you will make it work. And that's why they've now got the confidence to go, right, from the 6th of January, crack on. Yeah, whereas before COVID, they would have waited until April, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair assessment, isn't it? It's fair assessment. Miss Finance says it would be nice if there was an assistant for small business owners who want to hire. It's so scary, isn't it? Like every client meeting we have at the moment is all about the cost of employing people. That's like the biggest cost, and it's just had another hit to it. So yeah, small businesses are really struggling, aren't they, in terms of being able to.
The problem is there's not enough unemployment in the UK for them to justify spending money on employing people. Like if the unemployment levels were higher, I think small businesses would get a huge amount of support to employ people because it's in the government's interest. But our unemployment levels are still very low.
Yeah.
The reason he's had this huge power to do what he wants with this business, with this statement, is because he's got 20 billion surplus instead of the 6 billion he was expecting, mainly because tax receipts are up.
Yeah.
So everyone's getting pay rises. low unemployment. We're seeing huge amounts of extra money going into coffers at HMRC. And when you've got those kind of things feeding it, he's not inclined to have to support anyone's employments. Even though, as you say, like trying to get for us to compete as small businesses with the big boys is a nightmare at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. You go through it, don't you, with every client, their growth, there tends to be growth, and it's always that big moment, isn't it, when they get their first employee and that, you know, it feels like they're taking that next step, but that first employee stage keeps getting pushed back further and further and further away. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. But at least positive news on making tax digital though, right? I mean, that's what we wanted to hear.
No change.
Yeah,
it's still happening.
They didn't scrap it. That's a good thing, right? Well, people will say
Matter of
otherwise.
opinion,
But the fact they haven't scrapped it and they haven't wasted all the money on what they've done so far, so that's good. Now I'm pretty sure there's been more updates than what has been put out there, and I'm pretty sure there's more still to come. But at the moment, all we've got really written down was the fact that it's exactly the same. So the thresholds are going to maintain. 30,000 was the first one,
yeah.
and then 50,000.
Everything they announced last year basically stays as it is.
Yeah, that little plaster they put on to try and stop the bleeding, they're just going to keep that there for now, basically, is their opinion on the matter, isn't it? And just keep it going from there. Yeah, the dates are all the same, so I suppose it is a positive, really. It could have been worse. It could have been another delay. It could have been another pushback. It could have been cancel it altogether. So do we take what we got here? Are we mildly satisfied that there's no negativity coming out of it?
I mean, interestingly, MPs have warned HMRC in the last week that MTD is losing its focus on the benefit to the taxpayer. So they've said sort it out. Whether anything comes of it, I don't know. But there's a letter been written.
Was it, in curiosity though, was it ever really for the taxpayer, MTD?
Well, no.
To be honest, yeah.
But yeah, so the MTD, yeah, it's not really changing. I think, you know, all these big government organizations struggle with digitalization. Like Germany's just extended their mandated date by a year for E2E business to business invoicing. Like that was meant to have been enforced in 2026. It's now 2027. So, you know, we're not the only country with struggling to roll out and reform to tax and business invoicing and stuff. So, which is quite nice. Like sometimes you feel a bit, come on, oh, no one else seems to have these issues. Why is it just the UK? But no, there is other countries out there struggling. Yeah, I would have liked some. Whilst they didn't give us any negative news, I didn't walk away feeling confident that it was definitely happening and they've made real progress and they've made real inroads and the actioning, the feedback and stuff that has been going on through consultations. I didn't get that feeling at all. So.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the beta's even more difficult to be involved in now. So how they're going to get relevant data to go through it. Paul makes a great point, though. There was that multi-agent access was the highlight. Yep. So we've got the ability to do that. So they are listening to us, right? And I think, in fact, was it ICB or ICAW? One of them was a forefront in pushing that forward in terms of, look, it ain't going to happen any other way. You're going to need to give us multiple agent access. We're good to see. Wasn't there abolishment or at least the consultation now that they're going to get rid of the end of year update as well? So that's one less thing for us to worry about if that is going to be the case.
I don't see how that would work, but
we're going to have to do an end
that
of year.
multi-agent access. They've announced they're going to have it, but they don't know how they're going to build it yet. Like, the reason they've been putting off even having it in there in the first place because they couldn't work out how to do it. They've now said, yeah, all right, we're doing it because you're telling us we've got to, but they haven't got a solution. They don't know how it's going to work. They don't know how to build it. So yeah,
completely.
It's a holding note, isn't it, at best?
It is. I mean, yeah, at the moment they just need to look at it from an agent point of view, don't they? It was great from a user point of view. They kind of got that all nailed really in terms of what needed to be done and what their expectations are going to be, other than if you've got like multi property and stuff, that was the only real, and partnerships were the only real sticking point. But actually for a standard sole trade, it was nailed in terms of let's just roll it out. I mean, I've been on the beta, it's fine. It does what it does on the tin, right? It was working. But they really needed to sit down and look at how agents are going to roll this out and support their clients, because that's ultimately where it was falling short of. So we shall see. We shall see. Yeah, it was an interesting to see, to say the least. Right. Other
Moving
news.
on.
We talked about last week Bright, or accounting manager, rebranding to Bright Manager, and we thought, oh, well, that's interesting, isn't it? That's a new change. That's something that we can all get around. But they didn't end there, which is strange how they didn't just announce it all at the same time. I don't know if it, or maybe they did and we missed it, maybe potentially. But they've changed a whole load of different names as well. So basically, they've gone through their portfolio and made sure everything has the word Bright in it, which makes sense from a marketing point and brand awareness, and we kind of expected it. So Surf Accounts Production is now Bright Accounts Production now. Does that mean it's coming to UK? Maybe not. At the moment, it's Ireland only, isn't it? Surf Accounts is now Bright Books, so they've got their own FMS solution. Ooh, could that come to the UK? I mean, it makes sense at some point, right? Like, ultimately, if they want to own an ecosystem that's going to be all singing or dancing, they need their own version of an FMS solution. So we'll go through, and as we already said, Bright Accounting Manager is now called Bright Manager. So that means that the Bright Band is now Bright Pay and Bright Propose as well, and Bright CoSec from top of my head as well.
Yep.
And I know they've rolled out in terms of branding as well and UI, their new Bright ID, I believe it's called, where you get one login to access it all. The UIs look very similar now. Bright Accounting Managers had a lick of paint, which is all positive. And then the very strange, which we are very struggling between us, aren't we, to figure out how or why or what the play on this is. But they made an acquisition as well. And you think to yourself, well, what else do they need in their ecosystem? They've got accounts production. They've got an FMS solution. Okay, not UK based, but I imagine one day will be UK based. They've got a payroll solution. They've got a CRM. So what are they missing? What's that one thing that they need to bring in? And they went out and acquired iPass, which I'll be completely honest with you, I didn't even know what they were before this acquisition came through. And you're thinking, oh, is that some sort of like Irish payroll solution that, maybe designed just for Ireland and go from there? Because,
maybe it's cloud-based and they're hoping to rebrand it and launch.
Exactly. Maybe this is a big play into payroll. Well, it's definitely payroll related. So it is, but no, it's their payroll governing body. So Bright have acquired Ireland's payroll chartered. Let me get this right. It's not chartered, sorry, but it's their payroll governing body in Ireland.
That's like Sage or Xero or QuickBooks coming along and buying the ACCA.
Yeah. I mean, they can have ACCA. That's
but yeah, like independent. I think not.
I think that's the first question we asked, wasn't it? Is how? Like, how are they able to go and buy the payroll governing body? I mean, it makes sense for them, right? That Bright Pay is a huge proportion of was their original baby, right? And that's why they made the biggest headway and everything else. And you do see them still as a payroll first entity, don't you, when you hear the word Bright? I mean, that's the first thing that comes to your mind. But how are they allowed to go and buy a governing body, and why, and what's the reasons? Of any thoughts your end?
I've been trying to process this for the last week, and I'm still baffled.
That says it all, right? Like, how many times do we always come back with some form of opinion on something? And this one,
I mean, it's one thing with our software vendors vying to be the software providers of choice for universities and colleges when they're teaching accounting and bookkeeping. That leads to you, if you're doing your bookkeeping or accounting course with that college, you will therefore then use Sage, QuickBooks, or Xero to learn your skills.
Yes, exactly right.
That's one thing. Yeah. And, that pours more money into universities and college so that they can then get spend more money in the accounting and bookkeeping training, etc. Fair enough. And then it hopefully leads to people, like for years. Oh, I learned bookkeeping and accounting through college on Sage. Therefore, I know Sage. I will use Sage going forwards when in industry and practice. Fine.
And behind the curtains, that's a really difficult place to get into as well.
Yep.
I know QuickBooks have been trying for a long time to be, involved in that conversation, and it's really difficult. So I think there's an element that you have to have buying power to get to a foot in the table.
Yep. But that's one thing.
Yeah.
To physically own the governing body and qualification body, I just think it's full of landmines of ethical and moral implications.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could tarnish it quite easily.
Yeah. One of our pit stop podcast friends, so Clive, I don't know if he was in the chat. I can't remember if I saw him or not. He's normally in the chat. He's from Ireland, so he has a good insight into it. And he messaged me and says, basically, WTF was his. So that kind of says it all, right? He says as well, like this iPass, they're not chartered, so I got that bit wrong. Correction. But they go to professional body here in Ireland, and basically says if you want a payroll job in Ireland, you want to be iPass qualified to be taken seriously. That's how important it is over there. Like that qualification is what's needed to be able to run the payroll. What do you call it here? So yeah,
Clive's in the comments.
Oh, is there? Is he? Oh, is he LinkedIn user?
Yeah. It's like buying
anybody. Yeah, exactly. And it just doesn't feel right. Like they shouldn't be able to be purchased by effective. I mean, it's not Bright that's purchased them, right? If you look at who now owns them, it's the same company who owns CCH and Iris as well.
Yeah, I mean, in effect, what we've just seen here is a software vendor come in and buy a body like IAB or ICB or AAT, and basically they can that company mandates and standardizes the quality of training. Should a software company have that kind of access, or are we if this was happening if Amazon came along and did this, we'd all have major concerns, or Google or Microsoft or Apple. Like there should be things that are ring fenced and protected from, interest of businesses, basically.
Yeah.
Should they be under the control of a independent business and investors? I don't think so. If they were struggling and they were looking for some way, then the government should be running this business at this organization, because it's a national qualifying body.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
I mean, I know Bright's had a new CEO change, haven't they? And that was all very hush hush and very quiet. So,
these things don't happen overnight. This must have been in the works for months.
That must have been a previous thing that's come through. But is this their new approach then? Is they ran out of companies?
How do we promote our payroll software better? Oh, we'll just control the governing body.
Yeah. Let's say there's only one approved payroll solution going forward. Oh, that's going to be BrightPay. They effectively would have that power, right? Like
Elon Musk didn't like what was happening with Twitter, so he brought it.
Yes.
Like that's what we don't like the fact that you're recommending Sage Payroll, so we're just going to acquire you.
Exactly. We weren't the only one shortlisted for a payroll award at their. Maybe they have an annual awards dinner like Luke, and maybe they don't. But it's that sort of thing, right? It's that sort of approach. It just, I don't know. A lot of me feels like this shouldn't have even happened or gone through.
You know how like Microsoft was under investigation to work out if they were allowed to buy Modern Warfare.
Yeah, Activision. Yeah.
And when Asda make an acquisition, or Sainsbury's make an acquisition of another chain, or Morrison's make an acquisition of another chain, they all have to go under due diligence by an independent body to work out, is this fair? Is this fair on the market?
Yeah.
Something like any acquisition of a governing body and a qualifications body should also go under that scrutiny, in my opinion. Because I don't think that would have been ruled in their favour.
No, there's no way, is there? No. I mean, if we can get professional bodies, how much money is needed to buy HMRC? Is there a price point? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, would you? I think I'd want paying to take HMRC off the government's hands, but okay.
Yeah, but imagine you turn around and said, right, the only MTD solution is whoever bought it, right? Like,
Yep.
It just doesn't seem right, does it, in any way? And I'm not 100% sure what Bright do get out of it, like, fully. It just, like,
which makes it even murkier waters.
Yeah. If there was a clear, oh, well, this makes sense because of X, Y, Z, we're having to sit there to justify it, and that not make sense, right? So, okay, I mean, I thought their big push now was to cement their ecosystem, the fact they're rechanging, and everything's now called Bright. Everything's this, everything's that, let's make this ecosystem. And now
when you first told me about it, it's like, oh, maybe they brought, like, before you told me it was a qualifying body, and you're telling me, the first thing that instantly struck in my head was, oh, so what they've brought is like a K plan of the world.
Yeah.
And that's just going to help them streamline their training and qualifications for their own softwares. Fantastic news. But then you told me it's a national governing body. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. That doesn't add up.
No, makes no sense at all, does it? But there we are. That is Bright Manager, or Bright as a group.
Watch this space. We'll be looking into that forever.
Yeah, that's good. At least going forward, we can we can put question marks over and see how it goes. In better or more understanding in updates, Free Agent have been busy, haven't they? Very busy, in fact. So they formally have pushed their landlord tool. As you've put in the notes here, there used to be a beta / soft launch beforehand, so that was good. Did you ever get a chance to use the landlording part of it?
No, I mean, originally it was a bit like so it was Free Agent rebranded and slightly hashed up to make way to basically compete against Hammock.
Yeah. Because in preparation for MTD, wasn't that was their big push? It was like, yeah.
But what I've heard from, we've got a lot of Free Agent users around here because we're in Edinburgh. It's where Free Agent are born and established and run and from. And there's you get Free Agent free of charge with RBS and NatWest, and obviously RBS is big in Scotland.
Yeah.
But people that are using it are raving about it. But then anyone that uses Free Agent tends to rave about it. To be fair, like when Free Agent's right, it's really right.
Yeah.
And Free Agent are the first people to turn around and say, look, we've got our niches. We know where we will work. We know where it won't work. But where it will work, it will be fantastic. So yeah, bit of competition for Hammock. Like Hammock got into the market early.
QuickBooks Landlord as well.
Yeah. And then Free Agent, QuickBooks have both identified that it's a space they want to be in. Now QuickBooks' attempt was really just a reconfiguration of the chart of accounts. But from what I understand, Free Agent have gone very much down the same line as Hammock, where they've really looked at what tools and insights you're going to need as a landlord. So yeah, great news for them that they've now said, like, it's not, I think they soft launched it about a year ago now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If not a bit longer, maybe 18 months. But they've now said, right, no, it's ready. We're pushing it to market. Like, it's open. It's there for everyone now to use.
Love it. And I know, shout out to Dex, because I know they've got some updates coming in on terms of landlords and stuff. And the big one they want to push is extraction of statements, right? Of the landlord statements.
Yep.
So the idea that you get a landlord statement, sometimes they can be really complicated with all these deductions and various line items that you've got to account for. And the idea with Dex is send it through their software, extract it, and go through it. It's not live yet, but that's what their plan to bring to market would be. Would be amazing though if Hammock or Free Agent or QuickBooks can go down that route, because I feel like that's the sticking point with any form of of landlords, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've only got 12 to do, it's not the end of the world. You kind of find workarounds and you just sit there and each each month you'll just go through and do it, or at the end of the year you'll go through and do 12 at a time, or you'll pay your accountants to do it and they'll charge you a bit of a premium to get that bit done for you, right? So
Yep.
it's not the end of the world. But if you've got a portfolio of businesses and property, to say, that's quite a timely element, isn't it, when you've got those statements to go through. So yeah, fingers crossed that something like that can come in. That's always been for me the bit that Hammock nailed from day one, right? They had, it wasn't auto extracting or anything like that yet. I'm sure that's something they could look at later down the line, but the fact that they built their software to easily accommodate for that was a huge step, which is kind of where we criticized the QuickBooks landlord solution and property solution, because they didn't even consider that, right? There wasn't even an easy way of
they
doing
just
it.
felt that all landlords really need is a change of chart of accounts, a bit of change of terminology. It's like, no, they need more than that. But no, they've done that, and then they've continued. Free Agent have had for years. Free Agent were like your consulting like, if you're a consultant, one man band, Free Agent was for you. It's incredible,
wasn't it? Yeah.
And then 2-3 years ago, I think it was, they did an integration into Goodtill because they wanted to try and get into that retail space and e-commerce space a bit.
Yeah.
And they've now launched their next part of that, which is Amazon e-commerce. So they've got a direct API into Amazon, which I don't believe Xero or QuickBooks have got, or Sage. I think that's all through third parties, is it?
QuickBooks do, only because they acquired the third party, but yes,
Right.
yeah. But you're right, yeah. In the product in the UK, yes, that's not there. It is in the US at the moment. They've got a direct integration there, but you're right, doesn't come through. And we've said before, right? Like, it's a really complicated area, so it's good to see that coming through, and an integration like that will just simplify it and actually make it so that your standard client will be able to get their head around it without having to do workarounds and having to go through the complication that's there. But I think more than anything, it just means that the information should be coming in right, and you can have third parties which are amazing, and third parties work really well, but all it takes is Amazon or whoever to change their ruling or put two-factor authentication or whatever's going to happen, and all that can fall flat, can't it? So the fact that they've pushed it there, I think, is huge, and I fingers crossed they'll be looking at like eBay as well. That's going to be the next one. I think that's another one you'd like to see coming through. But that's got to be positive that they're even considering that and pushing that forward, haven't they?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great step in the right direction for them. All of a sudden, people that are just selling on eBay, on Amazon, which is quite an easy thing for anyone to do these days, can now pull their data straight into Free Agent. That I've not looked at the integration yet and how much is done for you, but we use Dex Commerce for Stripe and Amazon and stuff at the moment, and you do need to know what you're doing with the mapping and the double entry onto balance sheets and stuff to be able to set it up. So, but knowing Free Agent and the way they work, they've probably set it so it's automated. No, if you're selling something, then it's a cost of sale, and this is the mapping you need to do.
Yeah, attach your Amazon, and we'll deal with it in the background, because
Yes.
they are very restrictive in a good way, aren't they, in terms of what you can and can't do, which as an accountant frustrates us. I think that's why we sometimes shy away from Free Agent, because we feel like we don't have enough, enough opportunity to go and do what we need to do. But that the reason they've done that is because it's all focused on the consumer, isn't it? So
yeah, it's to protect the consumer from making too much of a mess. Having said that, I've got some consumers that have made a right bleeding mess of it.
Yeah, and then we feel as the accountant we don't really have the tools to fix it as we do in other platforms, which is it's chicken and egg, right? Which is best, which is the right way of doing it. It's a difficult one to kind of get right. But no, great. I think that's brilliant. And I think that's also hopefully means another push for the likes of QuickBooks or Xero to really push through. I mean, in fairness to QuickBooks, they already have the integration. It's already there. It's just not UK based yet. One of my best performing videos that I've ever done is my integration into eBay. So that kind of shows the appetite there. But it is, let's hope that comes through. Next update. Let's do the final update first before we go on to the final bit. So TaxCalc, they recently, or it looks like more people know the fact that they had the opportunity to sending revised accounts, which is great to see. We talked about that. What was it? 2 months ago now, something like that. But they've continued their update with FRS 102 increasability for LLP. So, yeah, this is good news all around. I mean, what we were talking off air before, and they could still do LLPs before, right? This isn't the first.
Yeah,
what
no, it's just increased
probably
functionality.
It actually thinking about it, because I think back on the thing, you weren't allowed to file LLPs electronically, were you? And now I'd imagine one of the updates here is the fact that you could, because that always that was one of our big pain points with the few LLPs that we had. You have to be really on top of it, right? Because it's still a paper submission and going through. And again, we were talking about one of the updates to Companies House was that they're getting rid completely, aren't they, of paper submissions? So yeah, great news. How has the tax calc implementation been your side? On point, been seamless?
My team are loving tax calc. I mean, the only headache we've got is like going back to that conversation about changes to payroll and national insurance rates. Is once a month or so we get a notification saying this software is out of date, and you have to sit there and update it before it lets you do anything else. And that often means then logging into the website, logging in, going through two-factor authentication, telling it to download, because sometimes the update doesn't always happen as easily as it should. So yes, it's a 10 minutes out of everyone's day who's using TaxCalc, because they all need to update it on their own devices, which is a downside of desktop-based software. But their development rate seems to be, they're doing stuff that others haven't even started to look at, from what we can tell. Like, no one else, to my knowledge, has announced that you can file amended accounts electronically through their software yet.
Apart from Sage, wasn't it? That was
apart from Sage, yes.
Yeah.
So, like, for the sake of having to download and run an update on TaxCalc occasionally, the pain and hassle we have of filing amended accounts and some jobs worth saying, oh, that signature's not in the right place, or you've put a stop instead of a comma here. Like, we've had it all. Then they come back and then it's late and then it's our fault. It's like, hang on a minute. So yeah, for that update pain, I am willing to accept it, to be ahead of the game with having to file stuff electronically.
Yeah, no, I'm 100%. And speaking of you're wrong, just a quick update to what we've already spoke about today. Got a correction to make already, live on this thing. So
what have you done now?
Let's make sure we get this right. Yeah, iPass, who are the who's been acquired by Bright, are not a governing body. We need to make sure that's very clear. They are not
just a qualification body.
A qualification body, yeah, and a training company as well. And I think what you were talking about them being more of a cap plan seems to be right. So I had a message through, so thank you, Clive, for bringing the update here. They have already, or Bright themselves are already rolling out Bright Pay certified trainers. So very similar to the QuickBooks trainers program.
Okay.
So what it looks like is Bright Pay are looking to make that more of a credible qualification and credible element. So that whole idea you were talking about the fact that they want to be more take the training more seriously and have that opportunity, seems like we've kind of got it right in that one. That seems
I have no issue with them buying a training provider. My issue is they own the national qualification. Like, that's like QuickBooks or Xero or Sage owning AAT qualifications or ACCA qualifications. I do not think so. I still stand by that software companies should not own national qualifications. The national qualification needs to be independent of any software-based or commercial-based business. Full stop. Yeah. So, okay, fair enough. They're not a national governing body, but they are still a national qualification, and they should not be involved in that. If they want to buy the training arm, so they've got trainers and processes and stuff to implement better training, yeah, fine. Go and buy the training arm. But it shouldn't result in a private company owning a national qualification.
100%. So, yeah, I think our skepticism still stands. It's just that, yeah, they're not a governing body. We shouldn't put them into the same remit as that, which is good to see. But they are definitely going to be pushing with the certified or training aspect of it, which is positive news, to be honest. That's like that is a positive thing. We want to see more. We want to see all
it's an interesting angle though,
training,
because if I look at Client Engager, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted to deliver a better training facility for Client Engager users, do I go out and buy a company that have trainers, but I now need to go and teach about
the software?
Yeah. Or do I go and get software users and teach them to train?
Yeah, which is
Like
exactly what QuickBooks. QuickBooks did. That's their training wire network built on existing users, existing practice owners. Yeah, exactly right. Because in this case as well, yeah, they'll be able to train the payroll brilliantly. I imagine like they're already, it's a good fit for that. But for the rest of the ecosystem, that's going to be a lot of work, isn't it? Because it's not even just training the software, isn't it? It's going to be training the whole of it there. So yeah, yeah, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? It's going to be a difficult one. So we got some comments coming through. So correction on that. Apologies, everybody. We thank you for keeping us honest. That's why you guys are here. You tell us what's wrong, and we implement accordingly. Just seeing if we missed any comments. Abdul's in morning. Good morning, Abdul. Hero behind the heroes. Yeah, it was great to see you at the business show as well. We'll talk about that in a moment. Red Rum says hello, and Andy says thoughts. Andy Rainwhite, it says thoughts on software vendors reviewing other software vendors competition. Interesting. What juicy part we got here? We got Carbon HQ, best accounting management software. So before I click on the link, or I can't click on the link, any
I've seen the link. I've done so. I'm going to keep stum on this because obviously I've got an opinion. But basically, Carbon release a report, as they call it, every year.
Yes.
Summarizing the pros and cons of each practice management software in the UK market.
Oh, juicy. Okay.
And Client Engager has made that list.
Nice. Well done. Well, first of all, congratulations. Yeah. That's good to be recognized.
To say the document is poorly researched would be an understatement. And making quite wide, accurate, assumptions, shall we say. So like, because it's new, most of the features listed on the website probably aren't available. So okay, but yeah. So out of interest, Aaron, if you're shopping around and one of the competitors has done a review, like a comparison type document, and this document lists Centre as a competitor still.
Wow,
as if they're still taking on clients. Like, I'm not sure they are, but. Yeah, what as a consumer, what would your thoughts be on that?
It's going to be a bit biased, isn't it? That's the problem. I mean, it's really easy to compare. If it's your software and you're comparing against competitors, very easy to do a pro and con list, isn't it? Because you will look for pros that make you look rosy and cons which make you look rosy. Why would you be anything other than biased, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it myself. Like you said, Satanta's there. They've even classed Pixie still as a practice management solution, which we've talked about a long time. That's not really a practice management solution, isn't it? So, ouch. And Taxstone made it as well. So they are.
Yeah, Taxstone and Glide.
Right. Yeah. And your face made it as well. So it's no.
Yeah.
So basically,
I don't remember authorizing that, but okay. That's fine. They took it off a YouTube video, I think, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So, ouch. So yeah, you're right. Cons: email integration limited to Office 365 users. We know that's not true anymore.
I mean, they've listed one of the pros that you can set timers on our dashboard. To be honest with you, I wouldn't argue that's a pro. I'd just say it's fine. It's there.
Lack of public user feedback. Haven't you got 700 members in your community? How many have they got in their community?
Oh, I wouldn't know.
7, I think it was last time I looked, maybe. And that's their employees. Unlimited workflow templates as well.
Technically, you build your own, so it's unlimited.
Yeah.
It's only as limited as your imagination.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that is not best practice in my opinion. So wow. They'll be doing awards soon. In fact, is Carbon looking to buy anyone, maybe AAT or someone, and be able to win it themselves? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Juicy. But yeah, I don't see any.
I don't think it's added any value. If anything, I'd say it's potentially detrimental to them trying to get new
Because they got
businesses.
it so wrong, right? Like we can find so many that they're supposed to be the what do you call it, right? They're supposed to be experts in this field. That's what they're supposed to be. Yeah. And if they're putting an information out here that's so massively flawed with errors and issues and there's things missing, you know,
And wide-reaching statements like all the features on their website may not actually be there yet. It's like,
yeah,
have you
yeah, yeah,
checked?
yeah,
Like if they'd asked us, we'd have told them they're there. They're there because we know they're there.
yeah, exactly. You know, when
So,
a con for Pixie is there's no Kanban board view, but that's not a pro for you.
yep. And there is a Kanban board view in Pixie now.
Right,
So,
there we are. So yeah,
and like they're saying, oh, Pixie's only good for one or two man, small businesses. Well, I'd argue the opposite way. It's better for bigger businesses.
and they
So,
don't give you an option to give comments on this either.
no.
So they've said that you don't get much user feedback in apparently in Client Engager. That's what their con is, lack of public user feedback. But Carbon themselves don't let users give their feedback on articles they've made.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
it's terrible.
I think it's just interesting. Like, could you imagine Sage, Free Agent, Zero, QuickBooks coming
Yeah.
out with a review of which product's the right one for you in the UK this year,
Yeah.
based on like they just wouldn't dare to do that. I don't think.
No, no. And where's Glide come from as well? I mean,
Glide's
yeah,
been there for years. To be fair to Glide, they have one amazing tool in the form
yeah,
of workflows. Like the ability, like if you tell Glide, you could build like this huge workflow tree that Glide goes, right, this customer is in England, he's using this software, he's payrolls this frequency, this is the workflow I've created for you. Because you've told me yes, no questions and logic. Like it's phenomenal from that point of view. The other areas haven't really been developed in the recent year or two, I don't think. But they've been there. They've been about for 5 odd years now. They're small team, really nice guys. I spoke to them a while ago. But that one area is leading phenomenal. Like no one else touches them on their workflow
fair play.
processing. So if you need complex workflows, definitely worth
Yeah,
having a look at Glide.
fair enough.
But yeah, so
and again, it just proves that they're very, very biased in this whole thing because not once have they mentioned client portal. So a pro to accounting manager and client engager isn't the fact you've got a client portal and tax dome for that matter.
yep.
It's
Because
disgusting.
in their opinion, client portals aren't valuable.
Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
they have magic links.
Yeah, users don't need it apparently.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then in the last 1 minute of our show, the business show, how was it for you?
It was good, wasn't it? Busy first day, not so busy on the second day. Just spending 2 days with the QuickBooks team that are always very friendly, and hospitality is always incredible with QuickBooks. But to spend 2 days stood there answering questions for small businesses, both on software and on taxes and how they should be working with their accountants and stuff. Like someone came up to me and said, "Oh, I've got this problem." And they went through the problem. And they said, "Oh, I think it's because we're on zero." It's like, no, it's not because you're on zero. It's because because of your accountant and the way they work isn't the way you want to work. Changing softwares isn't going to solve this. You need to have a think about your accountant. It's like, oh, he never gets in touch with me. It's like, so give me an example. Well, I did this and he didn't tell me that's not right. It's like, did you tell him you were going to do that? No. It's like, right, we're not mind readers. Like you need to be communicating with us. The changes are happening with your business. Let us know what's going on, etc. So yeah, it was really good to be able to explain to some people why they might want accountants and bookkeepers in their world, rather than just try and do it themselves. It was great to answer some technical questions on trying to do this. How do I do it on QuickBooks and stuff? So yeah, I love this small business show. I mean, I really enjoy it every year. So yeah, but it was your first one, Aaron. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, overall, really, really impressive in terms of what it was. I feel like I over egged it myself because I was under the impression it was 4 times the size of Account X, and and all this that, and the other. And realistically, yes, there's 4 times as many people in there, and maybe there's more vendors, which is crazy to think when the
Yeah.
amount of vendors we have at Account X, right? But it just didn't feel as that epic scale of as Account X is, and I think that's biased my end, right? And that's me. That's a me problem than anything else. But overall, like the quality of the conversations, the fact that we were able to kind of help so many small businesses out there was what it's all about, right? And kudos to QuickBooks for even thinking of the idea of it's not just let's have a stand about QuickBooks and how great QuickBooks is, which spoiler alert, it's amazing. So yeah, they were right to shout about it. But they gave an opportunity to have accountants there just to help small businesses along as well. No charge, no anything, no,
Yeah.
you have to sign up to the software to get access to them or anything like that. It was just an opportunity for them to show that they care, really, isn't it? So I thought the event itself was really, really good. I feel like we didn't get a chance to see any of the speakers, as there were some really good keynote speakers, I think. And from what I've been told, some really good feedback from them as well.
Yep.
And it was good to see other accountancy firms there as well. There was a couple of accountancy firms there,
Yep.
setting up shop. Yeah, exactly, which is good to see. And it really impressed to see how well Avon was doing, because they were the stand next to us, which were constantly having a queue going forward. So yeah. Who said they were a pyramid scheme? Not me.
There's a lot more layers to that pyramid scheme now.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was a great event. And yeah, I would highly recommend people keep an eye on it, really. Just having a wander around and just seeing what's going on. I think it's a good litmus test to how small businesses are doing, right? Like the conversation topics and what's going through. Not one person asked us about the recent updates to the tax or anything like that, which I was expecting. I was half expecting people to be like, well, how's that going to affect me? But no, they were more interested in how can they improve this solution, or how can they improve this, or they've got this pain point. What's the best way of doing it, which was great to see.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that rounds us up then. We are 3 minutes behind schedule, but I'm sure you will let us off with that. Remember that we go live each and every week on 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. So if you are listeners back from any of our channels, so maybe you've seen us on Spotify or podcast or Apple Podcast, wherever it's been, if you want to come and see us live, then do come along to us. We're on near enough every social media platform there is. We like to spread the love. And please do give us a review and feedback on the relevant area as well. If you can give us a thumbs up, or if you can give us a review on the podcast platform of your choice, we would greatly appreciate it. We're going to be back next week at the same time, same place. So we look forward to telling you what other news has happened between now and then. Yeah, and anything you want to plug, push, anything coming your end that people should be looking forward to?
No, I mean, just a week in the office this week. Episode 9 of the Day in the Life went live last Friday, which has been well received and got some questions. So I need to do some more direct videos on those topics. But watch out for next week's video this Friday at 8 a.m., which will cover the small business show. Producer Lizzie was there to help get some footage and insights and stuff. So that was really good. So I'm looking forward to a great video for that one.
Definitely loving that series, and especially get your popcorn ready for this one as well. If you haven't watched Friday yet, get your popcorn ready. There's some juicy little updates happening in the world of On Point Accounting. I won't spoil anything more than that. So yeah, get your popcorn ready. Watch last week's episode, and between now and then, we will keep an eye on the news and tell you about it next week. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for everyone who's been coming through. We'll leave on this comment. Great chat, chaps. That's a difficult one.
Tongue twister for you.
Enjoy the rest of the week, and enjoy the rest of the week to everybody else. Thanks, Miss Finance. Yep. Thanks for everybody who's been talking in the chat and keeping us honest, and especially for people who were corrected as we went wrong. That's what it's all about, right? You guys are the third host. So we'll see you next week. Cheers,
See you
everyone.
next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I've got to get better at pressing this button. Bye.